Hi, today I'm going to go into part 2 of my series on how to move from practicing scales to playing better solos. In the first video of this series, I covered some ideas like chunking, which is zooming in on a portion of a scale, and rhythmic variation, which is changing the rhythms that you use to practice a scale in those smaller chunks so that you can create more musical ideas in your practicing. And the idea is that this relates directly to soloing because you're practicing in a way that you would actually want to sound like when you're soloing. When you're soloing, you want to come up with musical ideas on the fly. You want to have an arsenal of different patterns that can create interesting melodies. And by practicing scales up and down primarily, you're going to inevitably end up sounding like you're just playing a scale when you're soloing. But by practicing in this different way, by varying the rhythms and focusing on smaller portions of the scales, you can work in this improvisational type sound when you're just practicing so that when you actually get to soloing, you're going to have more tools in your arsenal. So speaking of, today I want to talk about a shape that is one of my favorites. It's what I call the 2-3 pentatonic shape. So the idea is that there's 2 notes on one string, 3 notes on the next string, and then that pattern keeps repeating. So you have 2 notes on the 6th string, 3 notes on the 5th string, 2 notes on the 4th string, 3 notes on the 3rd string, 2 notes on the 2nd string, 3 notes on the 1st string. So the full scale looks like this. So what the scale addresses is something that can be difficult for guitarists, and that is breaching the horizontal aspect of the guitar. Most of the scales that we learn that are, well, whether they're pentatonic scales or in position major scales or whatever it is, you're going to learn in a vertical sense, meaning going in one position up and down, like the first pentatonic shape. And so on. So this is great and very important, but this is only breaching the vertical aspect of the guitar. When we move into this 2-3 shape, you'll notice that I'm moving from the 3rd fret on the 6th string all the way to the 12th fret on the 1st string. And this opens up a lot more areas of the guitar and can connect different patterns that you might know. Let's say you're familiar with the 5 different pentatonic shapes, or even 1 or 2 or 3 of them. You can connect those in with this 2-3 shape. And even if you don't know those, as you learn them, you can use this shape to connect them and connect lines between them. Like if you're going from this note here, I can go back down. Now I'm in shape 2 of the pentatonic scale. Resolve back to shape 1, or I can go all the way up to shape 3. Now I'm in shape 3. So, and we can go beyond that into shapes 4 and 5. But the nice part about this is that it's a repeating pattern. So if you look at it, it's just first finger, 3rd finger, and then we switch to the next string. 1st finger, 3rd finger, and then sliding with the 3rd finger. That's how I usually do it. Sometimes I end up fingering all the notes like this with different fingers, 2nd finger, 4th finger. But once you play that pattern, then that just keeps repeating. Well, it repeats 3 times. You go here, and then we repeat again. And then we repeat again here. And so the only thing to keep in mind here is that the pattern repeats regularly. But when we're switching from the third string to the second string, instead of moving up to the next string at 2 frets back, we're only going to go 1 fret back for the last pattern, for the last shape of the pattern, because the second string and third string are 1 half step closer together in the way that they're tuned on a guitar. You don't have to understand that. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. But it is the explanation of why a lot of the guitar shapes end up the way they are, because they end up, like, chord shapes end up changing when you hit that second string, because the strings are a half step closer together. This is super useful for soloing. I find that I use it a lot when I'm descending, playing, a fast lick or something, or, these 2-string patterns that it creates are really useful for just playing, whether it's blues licks or funk licks, anything that you can add some attitude and some flair to. Here's an example of a descending line that I might play in a solo, starting at the top of the scale, 12th fret on the first string, and arriving back. I'm going to resolve it down to A here on the 6th string. So that's just one example. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could use this, but today's exercise is going to focus on getting you to practice this scale in a couple different ways. The first part of it is going to be playing the scale from bottom to top and top to bottom, but instead of just running it, all in eighth notes, it's going to be using eighth notes with a hold at the end, so you get a feel for each segment of the scale. So like this. That way, when you're practicing it, you can get a feel for these different pieces of the scale. The second and third parts of this 3-part exercise today are going to be phrases that you could directly inject into your soloing. So the second phrase just adds a bit of forward and backward motion to create a melodic idea. Hopefully you can kind of see the way that I'm phrasing these exercises. Again, phrasing is probably the most important piece of making an interesting solo. So I've built the phrasing into these exercises. So pay attention to that. The third exercise is my favorite and has a really nice musical sound. So in this video, I'm just going to play out the exercise for you. You can practice along. I have practice videos available at my website through the link in the description, and they go from about 80 beats per minute all the way up to 140, so that you can work up. Hopefully you can practice along with each of them. There's also a free PDF available of the lesson exercise, and also the lick that happened at the beginning of the video is available on my website as a free PDF for you to have a little fun with and try to work that up. So here is the exercise.